Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Have you ever looked at some huge global crises, like climate change or a pandemic, and just wondered, why is it so hard for countries to just get on the same page? I mean, it seems like a no-brainer, right? But it's actually one of the biggest puzzles in global politics. And today, we are diving right into that puzzle.
All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with the puzzle itself, then we'll let two heavyweight theories go head-to-head, the realist worldview against the liberal counterargument. After that, we'll see how international institutions try to completely change the game, and we'll wrap up with the one core question that really divides these two ways of thinking. Sound good? Let's jump in.
So this right here, this is the big one. It's the kind of question that keeps diplomats and political scientists up at night. Why does cooperation fall apart even when it seems so obvious that everyone would benefit? Well, the answer really depends on how you see the world, and we're about to look at the two most powerful perspectives out there.
What we're really looking at is an intellectual showdown between two absolute titans of international relations theory. You've got neo-realism on one side and its main challenger, neoliberalism, on the other.
Now, what makes this so fascinating is that these two theories, they actually start from a very similar place. They agree on the basic setup of the world stage, which honestly makes their final disagreement even more compelling. It's kind of like two detectives looking at the exact same crime scene, but coming up with two totally different culprits.
So, first up, in this corner, weighing in as the reigning champion of international relations theory, is neorealism. This worldview is grounded in a really pragmatic, and yes, some would definitely say pessimistic way of looking at how countries behave.
The whole starting point for neorealism is this one super important concept, anarchy. And it's really crucial we get this right. It doesn't mean chaos, riots in the streets. It just means there's no world government. There's no global 911 you can call if another country breaks a promise or decides to attack you. In the end, every nation is on its own.
So this idea of anarchy kicks off this really powerful chain of logic. You see how it builds? It starts with this anarchic world. Then you add the fact that states have militaries that can seriously hurt each other. Then, because you can never be 100% sure what another country is planning, survival becomes job number one. And finally, states are seen as rational, always calculating the best way to guarantee that survival. It paints a picture of a world that's really driven by fear and self-help.
And this brings us to the absolute crucial point. Neorealists argue that in this kind of world, what matters most are relative gains. It's not enough to ask, hey, will this deal help me out? The real question, the one that matters, is will this deal help my rival out more than it helps me? And if the answer to that is yes, you walk away. Because that partner who gets a little bit ahead today could become your enemy tomorrow.
But wait, that's not the only way to see things. Stepping into the ring now is the challenger, neoliberalism. In this theory, it accepts the basic idea of an anarchic world, but it gets to a much more hopeful conclusion about whether cooperation is even possible.
Okay, this slide right here, this is the heart of the whole disagreement. For the neorealists, the big roadblock is that fear of another country getting a relative advantage, a bigger slice of the pie. But for the neoliberals, they argue the real problem isn't about who gets more. It's the simple fear that the other side is just going to cheat on the deal. It really all boils down to a problem of trust, not a problem of power.
And that brings us to the flip side of the coin, the idea of absolute gains. Neoliberals see states as rational egoists. Now, they're still self-interested for sure, but they mainly care about their own bottom line. So as long as a deal makes them better off, they're going to take it. They're not constantly peeking over their shoulder to see if someone else got a slightly better deal. A win is a win, period.
Okay, so if the big problem is the fear of cheating, how in the world do you solve it? Well, neoliberals have a pretty clear answer. You build institutions. Think of big organizations like the World Trade Organization or the United Nations. These are kind of like the referees that can make the whole game of international politics a lot more cooperative.
So, how do they actually do it? Well, according to the theory, these institutions work their magic in three main ways, and they're all designed to tackle that fear that holds countries back from working together.
So first, they create a sense of legal obligation, so that breaking the rules actually has consequences. Second, they lower what are called transaction costs, which basically just makes it easier and cheaper to make deals. But their most important job, the real game changer, is providing transparency. By watching what everyone's doing and sharing that information, they make it really, really hard for anyone to cheat without getting caught. And that reduces uncertainty, which in turn reduces fear.
All right, so who wins the debate? Well, the truth is, neither theory has really delivered a knockout punch. Instead, what they give us are two really distinct, really powerful lenses for looking at the world and for understanding why nations do the things they do.
So let's just do a quick side-by-side to lock all this in. For neorealism, you've got a competitive world, the main problem is relative gains, and institutions are basically just reflections of who already has power. For neoliberalism, cooperation is possible, the main problem is cheating, and institutions are the secret sauce for building the trust you need to make it happen.
And as a final point, it's really helpful to remember that these theories often get applied to different things. Neorealism, with its laser focus on survival and power, is usually the go-to explanation for military and security issues. Neoliberalism, on the other hand, with its focus on mutual benefits and trust, that's often way more useful for understanding things like international trade and economics.
So that leaves us with a final question, and this one's for you. When you look at the news headlines today, which one of these theories seems to do a better job of explaining what you see? Is global politics a zero-sum game where one country's win has to be another's loss? Or is there actually room for everyone to win together? I think the answer probably depends a lot on where you're looking.